जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय मृषभात परमंस परिव्राजकतरेष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय मृषभात परमंस परिव्राजकतरेष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस शील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, text number 10. Devahutirvacha Radham Bata Dvija Vrisha Etad Amogha Yoga Radham Bata Dvija Vrisha Etad Amogha Yoga Radham Bata Dvija Vrisha Etad Amogha Yoga Maya Adhipe Tvayi Vibho Tad Avaimi Bhartaha Mayadhipe Tvayi Vibho Tad Avaimi Bhartaha Mayadhipe Tvayi Vibho Tad Avaimi Bhartaha Yaha Te Abhyadhayi Samayaha Sakrit Anga Sangaha Yaste Abhyadayi Samayaha Sakridanga Sango Yaste Abhyadayi Samayaha Sakridanga Sango Bhuyad Gariyasi Gunaha Prasavaha Satina Bhuyad Gariyasi Guna Prasavaha Satina Bhuyad Gariyasi Guna Prasavaha Satina Devahutirvacha Radham Bata Dvija Vrishaitadamogha Yoga Mayadhipe Tvayi Vibho Tadavaimi Bhartaha Yaste Abhyadhayi Samaya Sakridanga Sango Bhuyad Gariyasi Guna Prasava Satina Devahutirvacha Radham Bata Dvija Vrishaitadamogha Yoga Mayadhipe Tvayi Vibho Tadavaimi Bhartaha Yaste Bhyadhayi Samaya Sakridanga Sango Bhuyad Gariyasi Guna Prasava Satina Devahuti Uvacha. Devahuti said, Radham, it has been achieved. But indeed, Dvijavrisha, O best of the Brahmanas, Etat, this, Amogha, infallible, Yogamaya, of mystic powers, Adhipe, the master, Tvayi, in you, Vibho, O great one, Tat, that, Avaimi, I know, Bhartaha, O husband, Yaha, that which, Te, by you, Abhyadhayi, was given, Samayaha, promise, Sakrit, once, Angasangaha, bodily union, Bhuyat, maybe, Gariyasi, when very glorious, Gunaha, a great quality, Prasavaha, progeny, Satina, of chaste women. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Sri Devahuti said, My dear husband, O best of Brahmanas, I know that you have achieved perfection and are the master of all the infallible mystic powers because you are under the protection of Yoga Maya, the transcendental nature. But you once made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill, since children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband. Kindly repeat the translation. Sri Devahuti said, My dear husband, O best of Brahmanas, I know that you have achieved perfection and are the master of all the infallible mystic powers because you are under the protection of Yogamaya, the transcendental nature. But you once made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill, since children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devahuti expressed their happiness by uttering the word Bata, for she knew that her husband was in a highly elevated transcendental position and was under the shelter of Yogamaya. As stated in Bhagavad-gita, those who are great souls, Mahatmas, are not under the control of the material energy. The Supreme Lord has two energies, material and spiritual. The living entities are marginal energy. As marginal energy, a person may be under the control of the material energy or the spiritual energy, Yogamaya. Kardama Muni was a great soul, and therefore he was under the spiritual energy, which means that he was directly connected with the Supreme Lord. The symptom of this is Krishna consciousness, constant engagement in devotional service. This was known to Devahuti, yet she was anxious to have a son by bodily union with the sage. She reminded her husband of his promise to her parents, I will remain only until the time of Devahuti's pregnancy. She reminded him that for a chaste woman to have a child by a great personality is most glorious. She wanted to be pregnant and she prayed for that. The word Stri means expansion. By bodily union of the husband and wife, their qualities are expanded. Children born of good parents are expansions of the parents' personal qualifications. Both Kardama Muni and Devahuti were spiritually enlightened. Therefore, she desired from the beginning that first she be pregnant and then she be empowered with the achievement of God's grace and love of God. For a woman, it is a great ambition to have a son of the same quality as a highly qualified husband. Since she had the opportunity to have Kardama Muni as her husband, she also desired to have a child by bodily union. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namavom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasatadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Mande Sri Gurum Deenataranam. Recently there was a news about how a woman in the US, she became pregnant by artificially inseminating herself without going to any hospital. Generally, people, couples, husband and wife, when they are unable to conceive by the natural process, they go to various hospitals for artificial insemination. There are many procedures for that, IUI, IVF, etc. So many are there. So this woman, she is not married to anyone. She is a single lady and she desired to have a child, and at the same time she was a lesbian. So she did not want a relationship with another man. She did not want to get into any kind of marriage or any other relationship with another man in order to get a child. So she decided that she will, it's better that she gets artificially inseminated so that she is free from any association with any man. And she can maintain her lesbian relationship also, and at the same time she can fulfill her desire of having a child also. And but then if you go to a hospital for this kind of process, it will cost some amount of money, and she either was not in a position to bear that cost or she was not willing to bear that cost. Either way, so she thought, why I have to go to the hospital? I'll do it myself. So she found a sperm donor, and then she managed to get the sperm donated by that man, and then at home she got a do-it-yourself kit and she impregnated herself and she became pregnant now. So the whole procedure costed her only rupees 4,000. So this became a big news, that how in only 4,000 rupees a single woman has become pregnant and she is carrying a child without having to depend on any other man or going to any hospital, etc., etc. So we can see how today's world, all this LGBTQ and all these kind of things are becoming more and more common. Homosexuals, lesbians, all these things are becoming more and more common. So although the people may become attracted to people of the same sex for on account of the physical attraction, still the propensity of the woman to have a child doesn't go away. Every woman knows that if she is in a lesbian relationship, she cannot have children out of that relationship. But still the desire for children remains. For satisfaction of her sexual desires, she may associate with another woman. But ultimately when it comes to getting a child, she has to depend on some other man only. So the propensity to have a child doesn't go away. It is always there. Now, we have to understand that in this creation, the process of bodily union between a man and a woman is given for a certain purpose, to fulfill the desire of the man and woman to have children, to have progeny. So to satisfy that desire, the process of sexual intercourse is a provision given in material nature, in this creation. But then what happens is, like all other activities, whether it is eating, sleeping or defending, these activities are also bodily necessities and they have a certain purpose. The process of eating is there in this creation. For what? So that we can honor Krishna Prasadam and we can purify ourselves. And along with that, our body and mind also gets nourished. To that extent, eating is required. But when we desire to fulfill that activity, the purpose of eating, to an unrequired extent, when the goal of eating does not become to purify ourselves of the contamination of the bodily identification and to keep our body and soul together, then what happens? It becomes lust, it becomes kama. We simply eat to satisfy the desire of the tongue to taste different kinds of objects. And when that desire becomes predominant, we are not satisfied with only vegetarian food. We want to eat animals also. So this becomes, actually this desire when to satisfy the senses beyond what is actually only required, that is called lust. So such lusty desires can be exhibited even in eating, sleeping, mating and defending, all four activities. Sleeping also is required to keep our intelligence in working order, because sleep is a function of the intelligence. If we don't sleep properly, then what happens is our intelligence will not function properly. We will not be able to focus, concentrate on whatever we are doing. We'll become very lethargic. Our efficiency will go down. So in order to be able to chant nicely, to be able to do our services nicely, we have to keep our intelligence in good working order. And for that, sleep is required. So for a person, if he sleeps 6 to 7 hours in a day, it should be enough. But then, people in this material world, for them, sleep itself is a very big activity of sense gratification. Because when they are asleep, they forget all their worries and distresses of the material world. So, sleeping, and for that, they've invented so many sleeping pills. If you are not able to get proper sleep, because what happens is in Kali Yuga especially, people are so much in anxiety because of the artificial standards of living, that for them sleep is also difficult. So take sleeping pills and sleep nicely. So the more than what is required when we engage in our senses, it only actually creates distress. Krishna also says in the Bhagavad-gita, Yaha shastra vidim utsrijya vartate kamakarataha na sa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. A person who acts in his life disregarding the scriptural injunctions. Yaha shastra vidim utsrijya. Shastra means scriptures. What are scriptures? What are all the religious scriptures? They are vidhi. They are a list of rules and regulations. What we should do, what we should not do. And by this way, the goal of the religious scriptures is to regulate the activities of the human being. So, yaha shastra vidim utsrijya, one who gives up shastra, saying that, oh, so many rules and regulations we have to follow. Why we have to follow all these rules and regulations? Give it up. So, when you look at the shastra, if somebody, the shastras are very understanding. They know that everybody has a propensity, has a sense gratificatory propensity. So, some people will want to eat meat. They will not be satisfied with eating only vegetarian food stuff. So, for such people also there is provision in the Shastra. If you are so keen that you want to eat meat, you cannot live without it, okay, you do it in this manner. On an Amavasya, you offer a goat or a lower animal to Kali and then you eat that. So, that means Amavasya comes only once in a month. So, one day in a month, you have the freedom to eat meat. That also after sacrificing to Kali, and also a goat or a lower animal, not a higher animal. You cannot eat a cow and such animals. So, the Shastras are giving so many restrictions. Only once in a month, it has to be on Amavasya, you have to offer to Kali. So, a person who is too much, he is too much lusty for eating meat, what he will think? After all, my goal is to eat meat. Why should I follow all these regulations? As if I don't follow the Shastra, I cannot eat meat or what? I can eat meat. So why should I follow all the rules and regulations of the Shastras? Let me eat meat every day. Let me go to KFC and eat every day. What is the problem? Who can stop you? Nobody can stop me. So what happens is, the people, when they give up the Shastra Vidim Utsrijya. When they give up the Shastric rules and regulations and they engage in sense gratification, the people's misunderstanding, misconception is, if I do this, then I'll be happy. If I follow the rules and regulations of the Shastra, so much headache and so much restriction, it is actually restricting my freedom. I cannot be happy by following. It is oppression, suppression, and of my desires, of my free will, etc. So, if I give up the Shastras, if I give up the religious scriptures, I can really be happy. But what does the Bhagavad-gita say? The Bhagavad-gita says that we may give up the Shastric rules and regulations and engage in unrestricted sense gratification. But that will not lead to happiness. Na sa siddhim avapnoti na sukham. He will not become happy. It will only create more distress for him. So, people who eat meat unrestrictedly, what happens? Eventually, they end up with some sort of cancer. Many people who are who are accustomed to eating meat, they will eventually land up with colon cancer. So, colon is the last part of the intestine through which where the stool gets stored, and then when we clear our stomach, it goes out of the body from there. Then when people get colon cancer, they do a surgery and remove the colon part of the intestine. So now where will the stool get stored? So they take a connection from the intestine and take a pipe outside the body and keep a bag. And that bag they tie it to the body. So all the stool gets collected in the bag, and every day they have to empty the bag, clean it and put it back. So amongst the civilizations where there is too much of meat eating, you can find this commonly. That people are there is a bag attached here, and they are going on with their meat eating and continuing. So, although initially for them it would have been very nice, no restriction of any Shastra, any scripture, comfortably I am able to eat meat every day, but eventually they'll end up in trouble. So much trouble, such a nasty business it is, that you have to have a bag and then you have to clean it every day. It's a crazy thing. So much pain you have to undergo. So we see how when we engage in unrestricted sense gratification, initially it may look like, now I can enjoy unlimitedly. But actually it will eventually, nasa sukham avapnoti. Eventually it will end up in distress only. He cannot enjoy. Not only will he end up creating pain for himself in this life itself, next life he is creating even greater distress for himself. Because people in Kali Yuga, their thinking is that this is one life. After you die, nothing is there. Everything is finished. Basmi bhutasya dehasya kuta punaragamanam. Charvaka Muni said, once your body is burnt and it is turned into ashes, who has seen that you have come back? So why bother about all this? Eat, drink and be merry. Enjoy yourself. So neither you will be happy in this life. In reality, it is not that after the body is finished, we die. We will continue to exist. So next birth, we will have to reap the results of the activities of this life. So we will have to suffer in the next life. So na sukham avapnoti and na siddhim avapnoti. He cannot achieve perfection in life also. Na param gatim, and he cannot reach the ultimate destination also. So people who are interested in achieving the ultimate destination of liberation from this material world, from this cycle of repeated birth and death within this material world, who are interested in moksha, who are interested in elevation to Swarga, those who are interested in going back to Vaikuntha, for these people, they cannot achieve their respective destinations unless they follow the scriptural regulations. Because that's another fad nowadays. I don't believe in any organized religion, but I am a very spiritual person. I don't accept the Bible, I don't accept Vedas, I don't accept Bhagavad-gita, but I believe in God. Why I should have in between this one, what do you say, in between medium, between me and God? I want to have direct connection with God. These are all the modern fashions which are trending. But reality is, Bhagavad-gita, Krishna very clearly says, if you keep aside the dharmic scriptures and think you can go back to Godhead, you can achieve perfection, you can attain liberation, not possible. Because the process of going back to Godhead is given in the Shastras, and unless we follow that, we cannot go back to Godhead. It is not possible. So, any activity that we undertake, it has to be according to the Shastras. Any activity that we undertake, we have to refer to the scriptures and see whether it is sanctioned in it or not. Anything which is not sanctioned in the scriptures is termed as sinful activity. What is the sinful activity? Sinful activity means that activity which will take you away from Krishna, which will take you away from your spiritual progress. That is sinful activity. And the nature of sinful activity is, if you are not progressing spiritually, if you are regressing spiritually, you are putting yourself into more and more distressful conditions. Even materially also you cannot progress if you spiritually don't progress. That is the way the material world is designed. So, in every activity we have to consider whether this is sanctioned in the scripture or not. So, the propensity to have progeny is given sanction in the scriptures through the institution of marriage. In marriage, a husband and wife, they have bodily union, and for that also there are rules and regulations. Just because I am impelled by sex desire does not mean that I can engage in sex activity with even if the person is my spouse. There are certain times specific times during which the husband and wife can engage in sexual intercourse to beget a child. It has to be only once in a month. It should not be during Ekadashi or Purnima or Amavasya. It cannot be during festival days. It cannot be during the first 5 days when the woman is having her periods, and after the first 6 days after the period also there can be no intercourse. And once the woman has conceived, no more intercourse between the husband and wife. And once the child is born, then 6 months again there cannot be any physical union between the husband and wife. So many rules and regulations are there. And when the husband and wife want to conceive a child, they have to undergo Garbhadana Samskara. Without Garbhadana Samskara, if a child is conceived, then that child is, according to Shastra, it is Varna Sankara. It is, even though the child may be born to Brahmana parents, he is considered lower than Shudra. So even a Shudra in the Vedic Varnashrama system, if he has to conceive children, he will follow a certain procedure. So the children who are born simply because of the lusty attraction between man and woman, which is what happens in current day Kali Yuga, children are all born simply because of the lusty attraction between man and woman. Nobody undergoes samskara. Nobody undergoes Garbhadana Samskara and chooses a specific auspicious time and day, and accordingly the husband and wife conceive the child. That doesn't happen in Kali Yuga. So that kind of birth, which is resulting from simply the lusty attraction between a male and female, we can see that very commonly happening in animal kingdom. So cats, dogs and monkeys, all these animals are born how? Simply because one male and female, they get attracted lustily, they engage in sexual intercourse and children are born. So therefore, in current day world also, even though a couple may be married, still when they beget children, what happens? Those children are born exactly like animals. Like cats, dogs, monkeys, like that only. Modern day human beings are also of the same mentality. That is why simply they will quarrel with each other. And the goal of their life is not spiritual progress. None of the people in the modern day world have any inclination for spiritual progress. Hardly we will find very few people who have that inclination to progress spiritually. In Varnashrama Dharma, what used to happen was, through the process of Garbhadana Samskara and through the process of marriage happening within the caste only, what would happen was, the genes would get transferred from generation to generation. And by this process, in a Brahmana's family, Brahmana only would be born. Kshatriya family, Kshatriya would be born. Vaishya family, Vaishya would be born. So the system was very advanced during that time. But that did not mean that intercaste marriages were banned. It was not like that. Intercaste marriages used to happen. Like we are seeing Karda Mumuni and Devahuti. Karda Mumuni was a Brahmana. Devahuti was a Kshatriyani. But both of them got married. So there was no objection like that. But people knew that if their genes had to be preserved and the child born has to have the particular characteristics of the parents, they would have to undergo some Garbhadana Samskara, and the marriage within the caste would have to be done. If the marriage is outside the caste, you cannot determine what the quality of the child born is going to be. Whether it will be Brahmana or it's Kshatriya, we don't know. But in the case of great personalities like Kardama Muni, because he was so highly spiritually elevated, even though he married a Kshatrani, the child that he was going to beget would naturally be of very high quality. Because he definitely followed the process of Garbhadana Samskara. This is how we have to understand. So when the common mass of people do not follow the process of Garbhadana Samskara, and they do not follow the process of marrying within the caste, what happens? The children who are born are Varna Sankara. They are actually animalistic. Animalistic means it is not that in a derogatory sense. It is in the sense that their priorities in life become simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These 4 activities become their priority in life, which is the priority for animals. Animals also, their whole life, their priority is what? The moment they wake up in the morning, first thing they look for is what is there to eat. They should have a nest or a den or some sort of culvert or somewhere where they can go and they can have a peaceful, they can have some good shelter. And then they want to, they have their scheduled times where they want to come and sleep nicely, and they have to have a partner with whom they can mate. So these are the only activities of animals. And modern day people, if we see, their goal in life is also only these things: how to improve eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So this is nothing but animalistic consciousness. So therefore, if the Garbhadana Samskara is not performed, what happens? The children who are born, they will be having this kind of consciousness. The consciousness that eating, sleeping, mating, and defending is the goal of life. And that is called animal consciousness. So in Shastra, that is why the propensity to have children is recognized. That is why Krishna also tells in the Bhagavad-gita, Balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshaba. Krishna tells that I am the strength of the strong, I am the strength of the powerful, which is free of kama and raga, which is free of passion and desire. Meaning, if I am a powerful person, if I am a strong person, and I use my power, whether I am economically powerful or physically powerful or politically powerful, in whichever way, I use my power for the protection of the weaker people. I use my power not for my personal aggrandizement, not for my personal domination over the others. If I use my power for my personal satisfaction of my personal desires to dominate over others, then it becomes, that kind of power is contaminated with passion. Krishna says, Balam balavatam chaham kama raga vivarjitam. So, when a person who is powerful, he utilizes his power for protecting others, not for dominating over others or oppressing others or exploiting others. Such power is sanctioned in the scripture. So, it is not against Shastra to desire to become powerful. Personalities like Yudhishthira Maharaj also wanted the kingdom. Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas fought the Kurukshetra war because they wanted a kingdom. Duryodhana also fought because he wanted the kingdom. But then it is said that Dharma was on the side of Pandavas, not on the side of Duryodhana. Why? Because Duryodhana wanted the kingdom, wanted to become the king for his enjoyment. Whereas the Pandavas wanted to become the rulers so that they could benefit the citizens with Krishna consciousness, so that they could protect them from falling prey to Maya, so that they could show them the path to become devotees of Krishna. So therefore, their desire for power, the Pandavas' desire for power was not against Dharma. Whereas Duryodhana's desire for power was contaminated with passion, kama and raga, and therefore it was adharma. So similarly, Krishna says, dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshava. So when the kama, when the lusty desire, when the attraction between man and woman is meant for giving birth to progeny of good quality, then such a desire is dharmic. It is not adharmic. But if the same lusty desire is simply meant for satisfying one's sexual propensities, then it becomes adharma. So we can see how, whether it is homosexual or heterosexual, whatever it is there in the current day modern society, all of them are adharmic. Whether they are husband and wife, whether they are married or live in relationship, or you are a lesbian, homosexual, whatever it is, all of them are adharmic. Because if the institution of marriage is meant for bringing a man and a woman for the purpose of progeny, not for the purpose of satisfaction of sexual desire. But people in modern day Kali Yuga, because all of them are born as Varna Sankara, they think they have misunderstood that marriage is for engaging in, marriage is a license for sex. And so therefore you will see, even lesbians, they want to get married. Homosexuals want to get married. So if homosexuals and lesbians are getting married, then the question is, for what purpose are they getting married? Because they cannot beget children. It is impossible. Then what are they getting married for? Because they are sexually attracted to one another. So for that, why marriage is required? Similarly, heterosexual people also, a man and woman also get married. For what? Because they are attracted to each other sexually. Then what is the need of marriage? Marriage is not needed. That's why we see, as time is going forward, people's faith in marriage, people's respect for the institution of marriage is slowly degrading, and that manifests first in the form of divorce. Actually, marriage means what? It is a samskara. Vivaha is also a samskara, where the man and woman sit in front of the fire and accepting the fire as witness, the deities as witness, all the elders as witness, the brahmanas as witness, both of them, they commit that they will live together for the entire life, and they will help each other to progress spiritually, and they will produce good progeny. Putrarthe kriyate bharya. Actually, a man has to marry another woman only if he wants to have children. Otherwise, marriage is not required. But then what happens is, because the man and woman are not coming together for that. That's not the prime purpose of marriage. So what happens? After some time, when they feel dissatisfied in that physical relationship, they say, no, I don't want to be with you anymore. I'll separate. Divorce. So what happened to all the commitment you did, the promises that you gave in front of Agni, in front of all the devatas, in front of the deities, in front of all the brahmanas and the elders and all that? No value for that commitment. Because the basis is something which is very flimsy, the attraction between man and woman. On the other hand, if the basis of that marriage relationship is very clearly understood, that we are committing ourselves to each other for the purpose of begetting good children of good quality, then the whole relationship becomes of a different level. So that is how we are seeing in the case of Kardamumuni and Devahuti. They are an ideal couple, ideal husband and wife. Very clearly, for a long period of time, Devahuti served Kardamumuni, but there were no lusty attraction between him and her, between the husband and wife. So when the appropriate time came, Devahuti is expressing her desire to her husband, that I desire to have a child. Because this propensity will be there in generally in almost every woman. Majority of the women will have this propensity. So there is a provision in the Shastras that such propensity is not against dharma. The woman can satisfy that desire through her husband by following the due process of Garbhadana Samskara. And that is what we are seeing is going to happen. And so the scriptures give, Bhagavatam is giving wonderful example of how good progeny can be created in the society if the husband and wife are both devotees and they follow the process of Garbhadana Samskara, then the progeny will not be Varna Sankara, but the children born will also be Vaishnavas, just like we are seeing how the combination of Devahuti and Kardamumuni, because Kardamumuni was a great pure devotee, therefore the Lord himself became his son. This, of course, this cannot be imitated by us, ordinary people. Ordinary people, we engage in Garbhadana Samskara and follow the scriptural rules, then what will happen? Good progeny, good Vaishnavas will be born. It's an opportunity for yogis who are yoga bhrashta, who in their previous lives have not completed the process of perfection in their yogic practice. They are given the opportunity to take birth in such Brahmanas families where all the shastric rules and regulations are properly followed. So it's a great responsibility of a man and a woman coming together in marriage. It's a great responsibility. It's not a license for unrestricted sense enjoyment. This is what we have to learn from the example of Kardamumuni and Devahuti. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, what exactly Garbhadana Samskara?
What exactly?
Garbhadana Samskara.
Sorry?
Garbhadana Samskara.
Garbhadana Samskara.
And is it practically possible for this modern age to accept that Garbhadana
Samskara means what happens is, in the Vedic times, the recommendation is that when the husband and wife want to beget a child, they have to choose a particular muhurta. If you go to any astrologer, he will be able to tell you. There are muhurtas for, just like there are Vivaha muhurtas. There are muhurtas for conducting marriage. There is a muhurta for Griha Pravesha. There is a muhurta for Garbhadana Samskara also. For Garbhadana Samskara, therefore, first you have to choose a specific muhurta, and then when that day of the muhurta comes, the husband and wife have to engage in lot of yajnas. Then they have to give dana, they have to give charity, then they have to feed the brahmanas. All this has to happen. So all this constitutes Garbhadana Samskara. Now in Kali Yuga, what happens is, all such Garbhadana Samskara processes nobody follows. Even so-called brahmanas, nobody follows. So in Kali Yuga, those who are following Vaishnava principles, Prabhupada has given a very simple process of Garbhadana Samskara. So for people who are initiated, who are proper disciples of Prabhupada, the Prabhupada has given a very simple process, because to follow all the Vedic rules and regulations of Garbhadana Samskara very difficult. First of all, to find a proper Brahmana who will choose a proper Muhurta, to whom you can give dana, to whom you can feed, all these are very difficult. And if all those rules and regulations are brought in, then people won't follow it also. So, being an Acharya, Prabhupada has given in Kali Yuga, this is what the Kali Yuga brain can follow. Beyond this, if you tell, see, as a spiritual master, Prabhupada also has to give rules and regulations, instructions which the disciples can follow. The Guru should not give instruction which the disciple cannot follow. So Prabhupada knows that if I give all the rules and regulations of Garbhadana Samskara as it is described in the Vedas, nobody can follow. So therefore Prabhupada has said, Garbhadana Samskara for our movement, the husband and wife, they have to, simple things they have to follow. Ekadashi, Purnima, Amavasya, festival days, all these they should avoid. And on the day, whichever is good for conception, the husband and wife have to together chant 50 malas of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is a simple process of Garbhadana Samskara. Because chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so powerful, it is far greater than any amount of dana, tapasya, any amount of yajna you do, it is far more powerful than that. The whole idea, like Prabhupada is giving a hint in this today's purport. Prabhupada is saying, Stri means expansion. Expansion of what? Not expansion simply of the bodily relations in terms of creating progeny and simply begetting children like cats and dogs. That is expansion of the body. But real expansion, when we say Stri means the root word of the dhatu of the word Stri is the same dhatu which comes for the word Vistara. Vistara means expansion. So Stri means one who helps man to expand. So what is he actually expanding? Not bodily relations, but Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, by bodily union of the husband and wife, their qualities are expanded. Children born of good parents are expansions of the parents' personal qualifications. You see, very important this is. So, in the Varnashrama system, the people used to very rigidly follow marrying within the same caste and following the process of Garbhadana Samskara, so that all the good qualities of the parents can be passed on to the children. That the children should inherit all the good qualities of the parents. That was the intention. Not some blind faith, some dogma that, oh, intercaste marriage, if it is not there, if somebody does intercaste marriage, we have to do honor killing. No honor killing was there in the previous ages. So many examples of intercaste marriages are there. One good example is Kardamumani and Devahuti itself. Then there is Yayati, who was a Kshatriya, who married Devayani, who was a Brahmana woman. Then there are so many examples like that. So, if in Shastras, intercaste marriage is not forbidden, but there was a science behind that, there was a logic behind following the marriage within the same caste, which if the husband and wife, their intention in marrying and coming together was to pass on good qualities to the progeny, then follow this process. If you are getting physically attracted to some woman is getting physically attracted to a man, then you don't have to see caste, geese and all that. You get married, and what kind of progeny comes out, that is left to karma. So in devotional life also, when Prabhupada has given the process of Garbhadana Samskara, the idea is that if the husband and wife together chant 50 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, their consciousness will become deeply surcharged spiritually. And so in that spiritually surcharged kind of environment, if the husband and wife conceive a child, that consciousness gets transferred to the child, and the child who is born will be a Vaishnava. If we do not follow Garbhadana Samskara, then what happens? The consciousness of the husband and wife when conceiving the child will be lust. So that child who will be born, that child, his priority in life will also be what? Satisfaction of lusty desires. So if the goal of marriage between husband and wife is to pass on the good qualities, is to expand their personal good qualities in their children, then Garbhadana Samskara we have to follow. Then when we look at it from that perspective, then chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 50 malas is a very powerful process. So we have to understand the spirit behind the rules and regulations given in the scriptures. So in the scriptures, a different process may be given. That you have to give dana, you have to follow some vrata, you have to feed brahmanas, you have to do some yajna. Whole idea of the whole thing is what? It imbues, it changes your consciousness. Your consciousness is not that I am doing all this to satisfy my lusty desires. The consciousness is, oh, there is a purpose. I have to, the progeny that I get has to be of great quality. He has to be of great character. So the same purpose can be achieved if we chant 50 malas of Hare Krishna mantra also. So that's the, when we follow the Garbhadana Samskara process given in the Vedas, then what happens is you may get a child of good material qualities. He may be of good sattva-guna and all that. But if we follow the process given by Prabhupada, chanting 50 malas of Hare Krishna mantra, and then the child gets conceived, then the child born will be a Vaishnava. He will be beyond a sattva-guna. So that way it is a far more powerful process of Garbhadana Samskara. Is that okay? Any other question or comment? Yes, please. Satyajit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Both is modern society that is now the children, they are born, they are one Shankara. So what is the hope for these children progressing spiritually? Or another scenario, suppose their family, their husband and wife, they follow Garbhadana Samskara, and children will be born with a Brahminical quality. But he doesn't take up like Krishna consciousness. Other side, he is not born with the process of Garbhadana Samskara, but he comes in touch with the Prabhupada movement, and progress especially. So both things took parallelly. One who's practicing Krishna consciousness,
Yeah.
another just Brahmical.
So number one is, to answer the first question, when the children are born of Varna Sankara, the Shastras have condemned Varna Sankara. They have said in Kaliyuga, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. Kaliyuga, everyone is born a Shudra, nobody is born a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya, because nobody follows Garbhadana Samskara. So when the Shastras itself is condemning them, what is the hope for them? That Bhagavatam says that Abhira Shumba Yavana Khasadayaha Yenyecha, what is that verse? Yenyecha Papa Yadapashrayashrayaha Shuddhyanti Prabhavishnave Namaha. So all those who are Shudras or less than Shudras, Abhira, Shumba, Yavana, Khasa, all these people who are described in the Bhagavatam, they are all considered less than Shudras. They are Mlechas, Yavanas and lower than them. So Tepi Shuddhyanti, they also become purified. Prabhavishnave, when they take Yad Apashraya Ashrayaha, when they take shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. So in Kali Yuga, the only hope for all the Varna Sankara is to take shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada. Simply by coming in touch with the lotus feet of a pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, the contact, the association of a pure devotee is so powerful. All their previous prarabdha karmas, because of which they have got the present body of being a Shudra or less than a Shudra or being a Mlecha, Yavana, whatever, or even if he is a Chandala, to lowest form of human being, who is a dog, who eats the meat of a dog, even such people can be purified simply by coming in touch with the instructions of a pure devotee. So that is the power of a pure devotee. In Kali Yuga, the only hope is to take shelter of the lotus feet of a pure devotee. That is why in Kali Yuga, other processes of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, these are not recommended. Because there is a certain minimum qualification required to follow them. You have to be at least a Kshatriya to follow the process of Dhyana and to follow the process of Jnana and to follow the process of Karma Yoga. Otherwise, there is no hope. So in Kali Yuga, nobody is a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya. Nobody is even a Shudra. Actually, if you look at the Bhagavatam, what it describes, the qualities of a Shudra. Shudra should never speak a lie. Shudra should engage in yajna every day. Shudra should be very clean. Every day he should take bath 3 times a day. These are the qualities of Shudra, not of a Brahmana. Today's Brahmanas also won't satisfy that condition. So where they can follow the path of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana and all, not possible. So only Bhakti Yoga will work, because Bhakti Yoga is so powerful, it will elevate anyone who comes in touch with it to a transcendental platform through the association of a pure devotee. So the only hope for Varna Sankara in Kali Yuga is take shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad-gita and Bhagavatam, perfect yourself. And as far as the other question is concerned, one part of your question is already answered, that those who are born to parents who may not be the parents may not even be from Brahmana family, they are not undergone any Garbhadana Samskara, but still the children take up Krishna consciousness. Like all of us, our parents definitely did not undergo any Garbhadana Samskara. Many of us are not from Brahmana families. Some of us may be, but many of us are not from Brahmana families. But we are all engaged in deity worship, we are doing yajnas, all those kind of things. How? And if you look at even a Bhakta who is not yet initiated in ISKCON, his qualities will be much better than a Brahmana outside. Today's Brahmanas all Janivdhari Brahman. They will tell, one politician was there, so everybody said, oh, he is born in a Brahmana family, but he is very fallen and all that. They start saying, no, he is Janivdhari Brahman. And the next day they show him going into a chicken shop and coming out. So he eats chicken also, he drinks alcohol also, but he is Janivdhari Brahman. So in Kali Yuga, Brahmanas are all like that. Why? Because Shastras say all Asuras and Rakshasas in Kali Yuga take birth in Brahmana families. So you will see in Kali Yuga, the Brahmanas are the people who will be the biggest atheists, and they will be the people who will be the biggest violators of all dharmic principles. In the name of modernism and in the name of being liberal and secular and all that, you will see most of them will be all born in Brahmana families only. All these guys who are violators of all the dharmic principles. So as far as parents who are Vaishnavas and who undergo the proper process of Garbhadana Samskara, the process of Garbhadana Samskara is foolproof. If the husband and the wife have properly followed all the principles of Garbhadana Samskara, then the child who will be born will be definitely spiritually inclined. The child has to be a Vaishnava. There is no other way. If the child born to Vaishnava parents does not become a Vaishnava, then that means there is some flaw in the process, in their following the process of Garbhadana Samskara. That's a simple thing. So it's not the other way around. So that's what we have to understand. Okay. So we'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.